right now, so we're good. So let me get started right now. Okay, hold on. I'm going to just set the record right now. All right, let's go, everyone. Welcome. I'm so happy you're listening. Mia, can you kind of start from your journey where you are right now, and then we're going to reverse. Is that okay? All right, so just unmute yourself, okay? Are you unmuted, Mia? Are you there? Let me just unmute her right now. Okay, hold on. I'm unmuting you. Mia, are you good?
Sorry. Yes, I was a participant. That's why.
Oh, I did. All right, it's fine. I'm gonna make you host, and then can you make me co-host, or?
I'm not sure.
I'm gonna make you.
You can stay as host.
Okay, so you're host right now, but can you make me co-host? Is that possible?
I'm not sure. I don't think it is to be co-host.
Fine. Just make me the co-host and make me the host. It's fine. I'll be the host. All right, because I honestly I'm a controlling person. I like my powers. So you're good right now, and your lighting is good as long as you're close to the screen. Just put yourself closer to the screen, okay? All right, perfect. All right, everyone, let's get started. Mia, tell us where you are right now, okay? Go ahead.
So at the moment, I am a student at New York University, NYU.
Yay!
I'm a freshman, and I'm super happy at NYU as a part of the liberal studies core system. Which basically means that the first 2 years you do basically pre-disciplinary arts work, and then you basically move into your major. And I really actually prefer that system because you actually get a little piece of everything before you declare your major, and so it makes it a lot easier for me to choose at the moment. I'm between political science and engineering. So I really enjoy the curriculum that I'm in now. And I can honestly thank Francis and the rest of Qualler for helping me through this journey, because as a first generation, the first generation American in my family, we didn't know a lot about the college process or the difficult competitive high school process. And so having someone like Francis to help me through that process since I was, I'd like to say 11 or 12 years old, definitely set me on, the process to
that's so
excellence.
Thank you very much. I'm tearing. I'm very excited you're at NYU. So how is it so far? How are you right now with your adjustments from high school to college, from a Catholic high school to college?
I am doing very well. It's actually funny. I wrote something today in my class. I wrote like an essay, and my professor was a really big fan of it. And so, all those writing skills and math skills that you learn at Catholic school are definitely worth it. And I know that a lot of the everyday skills that you use for tests or those critical thinking skills, they definitely do come to play in higher education. And so I'm definitely grateful that I have those skills, because it makes college a lot easier, and it makes the transition from high school to college a lot easier as well. Honestly, I didn't notice a difference between, well, not a difference, but the transition from high school to college hasn't been hard for me. I've had those time management and workload skills that you learn. They definitely make life, college life a breeze.
So you feel, before we jump into the scholarship part, looking back, you feel like Marymount prepared you well for college?
Yes, I feel completely college ready.
I'm so happy. All right, so let's jump right in. So now we went through that you're in college right now. So let's I need you to just think back to the time when you were.
How many years ago was that? 7 years ago?
God, a long time, before I had 3 kids. All right.
So I actually remember the day that I walked into Queller. It was a very, it was the beginning of a very bright future for me, academically. So I've been to Catholic school my entire life. My parents are a big fan of Catholic school education, but they're even an even bigger fan of Queller. And so, especially Francis. And so I started off my journey not knowing how the Catholic school high school process was, especially like independent schools or competitive schools. And so mainly I was on my own before I started going to Queller. And so it was just a struggle between getting the resources needed for these school processes, because it's something that it's not often talked about, and it's a very like niche community in terms of talking about. And so essentially I started at Queller as a blank slate, and so through guidance about scholarships and different exams, I was able to start my journey and eventually end up where I am now as a college-ready freshman at New York University. And so just to start, Catholic high school was always my overall goal, as someone who went to Catholic school my entire life. And so I knew what type of school that I wanted to go to, but the competitive selective school environment, I wasn't sure about. I didn't think that I had the skills to get there. And so I actually started my Queller process in the SHSCT class. And I have to say that taking the SHSAT and preparing for the ISEE, which helps you prepare for the independent, which is the independent school entrance exam, definitely helped me prepare for life as a high school student, but also getting into these schools. So overall, many schools have like a different criteria and process that they're looking at. So my school, for example, you had to be referred to, you had to have someone give a recommendation that you didn't even know that they were putting in for you. It was just someone that they thought you were a good candidate, and they would send an email to or write a letter to Marymount, and then you would find out about it months later that you were up for this opportunity of a lifetime. And so that was just my personal experience at Marymount, as well as an interview process and rounds of testing, which is something that you'll often see for these exclusive independent school admissions process. And so it's very similar to a college process in a way, because it's a lot of interviewing and testing, but it's all worth it in the end.
So to recap, I want to make sure I understand. So you didn't even know that like someone had submitted this. It's called, can you just go over the name of the scholarship, the application? I just want to be super clear. You didn't know that one of the teachers at the time even submitted the recommendation.
It wasn't even a teacher, it was the principal of my school. Essentially, she submitted a letter to Marymount saying that she thought I would be a good candidate for this scholarship. And along with the scholarship, it's called the Butler Scholarship for Marymount. It's an all-girls school in the Upper East Side. But essentially, along with admissions, you get a scholarship. And I had no idea that I was up for this until one day I got home and there was a letter in the mail saying, someone nominated you for a scholarship, and that I had no clue about. And I honestly thought it was a scam at first, until I inquired about it and I realized that I actually was nominated. I had no clue that this was even a thing. So for the Butler Scholarship, it's quite a process. They're rounds. And so the first round, essentially, well, the first step is getting nominated or having a parent nominate you. There's two routes. You can have someone that knows you and academically, like a principal or a teacher, nominate you, or you can nominate yourself. And then you take the ISEE, which is the independent school exam. But then along with that, you also have to take the Marymount Butler exam, which is a special exam of its own. There's no way to study for it because they don't tell you what's on the exam. Essentially, it's similar to the ISEE. So it's like taking two of those exams. It's like a mix of the SHSAT in a way and the ISEE, but you have no clue what's on the exam. And then after that, you do an interview process, and by then you're a semi-finalist, and then you find out months later whether or not you get in. And you find out.
Just to be super clear so that the parents understand, and just because some parents join the meeting right now. So you were really lucky that your school principal nominated you. However, parents can nominate their own children, correct? So is that right? So as a parent, you can can you kind of walk us through how that would work?
So because I didn't nominate myself, this is what I know from working with the admissions team at my high school. So essentially, you can go onto the Marymount website. It's just Marymount School of New York is the official name, and you can just look it up and go to their website, and they have under the admissions part of their website, they have the self-nominate option. And there isn't any difference. They're not going to weigh your application differently, whether or not you were self-nominated or if you were nominated by like a principal or a teacher. The self-nomination process, they have that because not all schools, guidance counselors or principals or teachers even know that Marymount has a scholarship or has this amazing opportunity. And so because it's not that well known, they have that self-nominate option. So that's always possible. And a lot of other schools do as well. And so these are just things to inquire about. Sometimes sending an email or talking to admissions representative on the phone can be very helpful. And they enjoy talking to parents and students because it's a way for the school to learn about who you are and how interested you are in their school. And so that's the self-nomination option.
And then the actual content on the Butler exam was what?
I would say that the content wasn't any more difficult than it's around what an 8th grader math and writing curriculum is. So it's essentially a it's like the ISEE, exactly like the ISEE in format. And so, but just a little bit easier, in my opinion.
And then I realize this is 4 years ago. Oh my God, 5, 6, 7. Can you kind of recall the timeline of when you took this exam from the time you were nominated? I just want an idea of what
it was about this time of year, like this October-ish time of year. So I took the ISEE, I believe, in the summertime, but then I believe I found out around October, November when I got in. That's around when I found out. If you know anything about the CHSEE, which is the Catholic school exam in Long Island for Long Island Queen schools, that's the Marymount follows that timeline similar to there. And so the timeline isn't any different, but I do recommend that I started this process in 7th grade. And so when I was in 7th grade, I found out that I was nominated. And so then my 7th and 8th grade year were spent in preparation for this exam that I was nominated for. And so starting as early as sometimes 5th grade, is very helpful, because I actually started my color journey in 6th grade in preparation for the SHSAT. And then meanwhile, I was nominated for the Marymount exam without even knowing. And so all of these steps did help me end up at Marymount. And I would definitely say that it's not any more difficult than the ISEE. I mean, the makers of these exams know what the 8th grade curriculum is like. And so you might need extra studying or extra practice to just reinforce those math skills, but it's essentially like Algebra 1, verbal reading comprehension. Those are the two main topics of the exams. 8th grade level geometry, a bit of geometry, like, finding the areas of things, perimeters, Pythagorean theorem, things like those. Those are some of the topics on the exam, and reading comprehension as well. And I also believe like grammar, that was also a big topic on the exam that I remember from 5 years ago. Yes. Additionally, I would say that another important part of getting ready for these scholarships and exams is, I would say, getting ready for the application process would probably was the toughest aspect for me. And so having not necessarily letters of recommendation, but being a part of being an active member of your school community and having clubs, having extracurricular activities, those are things that they like. And they honestly are looking for students with personality. And so being yourself is honestly the biggest piece of advice, because I do have a very funny story about how I ended up getting into high school was because of an interest of mine. And so that might be a story for a different time for Francis, but it was something that that I definitely recommend. So just being yourself and letting your interest shine is something that I would definitely recommend. So if you have an interest that maybe not a lot of people know about, definitely highlight that on your application. It's something that not a lot of people are interested in, that might be interested in, but it's something that makes you you. And so a lot of times with these applications, they're looking for unique interests. They aren't looking for people that are cookie cutter necessarily, but they're looking for people that are true to themselves and might bring something special to their school community. And for example, just to illustrate what I did at my interview, was that I'm a big fan of musical theater. And it turns out that my interviewer had friends who were part of the cast of Hamilton. And in the middle of my interview, I said, I'm a big fan of Hamilton. And I started singing Hamilton lyrics in front of my interviewer. And I didn't even know that she was a big fan of Hamilton as well. And she was just like, I am friends with the people on the cast of Hamilton. And so we were talking about Hamilton throughout the entire interview. And it was something that she thought was interesting about me. And that's a large part of why I ended up, I wouldn't say a large part, but it was something interesting about me that I let shine during my application. And so just exploring your interests is definitely something that I would recommend. I'm not sure if caller has any thoughts on that.
So if you could also go through some other scholarship pieces of information that we should know about, I think that would be so helpful. What are some more other scholarships that you had applied for, and what were the exams like? I think that would be really eye-opening for the group.
So the main scholarship was the Butler Scholarship. And just to break down the Butler Scholarship, it's $20,000 for all 4 years. So in summary, 80,000. And that was it definitely helps because as someone who's a first generation American, I didn't have that money to spend on high school, and it helped me save up for college. So that was just a big scholarship that I would recommend. But also some of the tests that I took were the HSPT, the CHSEE exam, which is for Catholic high
Could
school.
you, do you mind typing it into the chat? I want the parents to just like know the names of all the different exams that you took.
The HSPT, I took quite a big number of exams. The CHSEE, the SHSAT, the ISEE. There are probably more, but the HSPT, the CHSEE, I also believe the tax, or studied for the tax exam. Those were all of the major exams that I took. And also the Marymount Butler exam. And essentially all these exams are somewhat similar. They do have different unique, each exam is like getting to know someone, right? It has different aspects of the exam that are unique to that exam. And so getting to study the actual exam and getting to kind of strategize each part of the exam is what actually makes all these tests different. But usually the subject matter is somewhat similar. And so the Marymount Butler exam is very similar to the ISEE, and the CHSEE is essentially, I personally thought that it's because it's for Long Island exams, it's a lot easier than exams like the SHSAT. And so a part of my journey was taking the SHSAT, and I realized that the skills that I had learned were beneficial for the rest of these exams, because personally, I thought that the SHSAT for me as an 8th grader was a lot harder than a lot of the other exams that I took.
And so in terms of timelines, how did you manage your time as an 8th grader? How did you handle all of this?
Part of the reason is because my parents are very strict people. But I would have to say that I started the journey early. I started in 6th grade. So I think that managing your time and kind of getting ready for these exams is the best advice that I can give. But even as a 6th grader, I wish that I had started in 4th grade. But you know, starting for the Butler exam and the ISEE exam in the 7th grade, I had to be very careful about my time. So breaking that up between extracurricular activities, but also schoolwork, and between time that I would spend at Queller. And so after I would do my homework, then spend 2 to 3 hours on testing. And then I would also do my extracurriculars on the weekend. So I was constantly busy. And anyone who knew me during that time I was like a woman out of time. But I definitely would say that, you know, teaching your children to like work on a schedule is very important, and kind of helping students learn to prioritize their time is very important. And so I spent probably more time on testing. I basically found time anywhere that I could. If I was doing homework in the car, between an hour and a half journey that I had on the way back home, and then spending the rest of the night until 8 doing testing. And so I was very dedicated in that aspect. But also, just creating a schedule is important too. Spending an hour or 2 a day to chip away at certain materials, I think, is very helpful. And a tip that I used back then, and I still use now, is that if you know that an event is coming up, create a calendar according to what topics that you think are difficult or topics that you want to highlight, or just topics that you want to go over in general, and then chipping away at those day by day is something that I find just very useful.
Can you just go over it, because you applied for the 5 scholarships, you took the tax one more time, the SHSAT. What were the names of the tests again, one more time, just so all the parents hear it?
The HSPT, the CHSEE, the SHSAT, the ISEE, and the Marymount Butler exam.
So you took all of these exams. How did you stay organized? Did you write it down with a pen and paper? I mean, I recognize your parents were involved, but I mean, it's really you. Like, you were really the one taking the tests and scheduling. You were also a full-time student. Do you mind sharing what your average was in the 8th grade and the 7th grade, how you were performing?
I was valedictorian of my 8th grade class. So
Interesting.
I was.
So you're the number 1 student in your 8th grade class. You're taking 5 scholarship exams. You're applying to, like, I don't know, 10 schools or 20 schools. How many schools?
20 schools.
You applied to schools. Is everyone listening to this? We're really impressed.
Applying for actually probably more than 20. I was applying for all the ISEE schools, all the SHSAT schools, the HSPT schools, the CHSEE schools, and Marymount.
How did you stay organized? How did you stay organized throughout this whole process?
Looking back, I think that I'm a visual learner, and so I used to have a calendar in my bedroom, and I would just write. My mom would write down all of the dates, and she would write down, okay, Mia, today is, it's the middle of the summer. So you're going to do math work today, and then tomorrow you're going to do reading comprehension. And so I liked to break down my time according to the skills. And if there's any advice that I would give, the summertime or any time that you have school breaks, those are the times to work. And I mean, looking back at it, when I was in 8th grade, I definitely didn't want to spend my summertime or my winter break studying, but it was something that was necessary. And looking back on it now, I'm very grateful for it, because I'm at my dream school, this school that I always wanted to go to when I was in 3rd, 2nd grade. And so, it's something that you definitely want to stay on top of. And so if you, on the weekends especially, was when I would spend all of my time studying. And also between going to classes at Queller on the weekends as well, on top of extracurriculars.
So for the chat, does anyone have any questions that they want to ask Mia, or that you want to, type in just with your order and with your organization? I'm just so impressed with you as a woman, to really put it out there, as a woman of color, as a woman who is going to New York University, someone, like, valedictorian of your middle school. I'm just so impressed. I mean, Mia, give us, parents, please type any questions you have in the chat box. But I really, can you give advice to all of the 8th graders listening? And I have some, little visitor here as well who I'm going to showcase. But can you give us some, I guess, kind of how do we be you? How do we stay organized? How do we organize our lives?
I would say that, like, for parents or guardians, I would say that being an active part of, like, the student's life is very important. I don't think I could have been anywhere without my parents and without the role of my older sister. She was on top of me more than my parents sometimes. So being an active member and, helping with organization, just being understanding sometimes, is probably the biggest piece of advice that I would give. For students, I would say that kind of knowing the prize ahead of you is probably the biggest aspect of it all. And so I think that a large part of the reason why the college process was somewhat easier for me was because I was at a high school where I was already ready. And so I was ready for the I was ready for college course loads. The application process was not difficult, was actually a lot easier for me than I expected it to be, because I already knew how to write, and I knew what certain audiences were looking for. The reputation of my school definitely helped as well, because colleges knew that I was college ready. And also I had a large part of what I learned in high school was learning to manage my time, but also trying to be the best student that I could be in terms of being organized and working with my time. And so I would say that knowing the goal that you're working towards is probably the biggest piece of advice that I would give, because even as an 8th grader, even when I was in middle school, I already had college on my radar. I like to plan ahead. And so kind of having those things on your radar is something that I would also advise, but also making the best of your time in high school. And so even as an 8th grader, I knew that the work wasn't done. And as an 8th grader, I had already started working towards internships and looking forward to what my curriculum would be like in high school, and trying to work that out and seeing how that would benefit my college journey.
I think everyone is just so impressed with how much you do and what you do. Can you check the chat? One of the parents had a question to ask you.
I can't see, sorry. I can't see anyone's chat so far.
Let me type it in right now. Oh, sorry. We upgraded the security settings, so bear with me, parents. I had to do a major upgrade on my security. Hold on, everyone. One moment. Wait, I'm gonna switch the spotlight though. This is pretty cool. Hold on. No, look here. The parent is like, what schools did you get into? The parent is asking, do you even remember this? Do you remember what schools you got accepted to?
I would like to say probably like 95% of them. I don't remember exactly.
Do you remember some of the names? The parent is just asking in the chat box.
It's really hard for me to remember the names of the schools, because I was just so excited about Marymount that I didn't even open I opened them, but I just didn't care what school I had gotten into by the time that I had received the Marymount letter. But I think I got into the Long Island schools for the SHSAT. I believe I got into, is it, what do they call it again? It begins with an L for the SHSAT schools.
LaGuardia.
Not LaGuardia, it's something else, like a school of science or something.
So you had to showcase your talents, right?
Oh, it wasn't for LaGuardia. I got into a different school. It's called like a school of science or something. It's not rock science.
Everyone, we're gonna wind down the meeting. I'm gonna take you guys off the mute. Is that okay? Just so that we can give me a huge hello. And this is my little visitor. Hello, Jacob. Don't take my pen. Jacob, let's say Jacob taking notes. How about we do that? That's really funny. Jacob, no, we're gonna take notes. Let's take notes. Ready? Oh my gosh, that's right, Mia. Ready? Everyone, we're gonna take Mia. Can you unmute everyone or should I do it? We're gonna write Mia. There, we wrote Mia, sort of. Okay. All right, Mia, I'm going to take our wonderful participants. Can we give Mia a huge thank you for giving us all this amazing content and information and motivation and inspiration? And thank you for working at Butler. No, don't do that. Can we give Mia a huge thank you? I'm gonna ask everyone just to unmute, just to say thank you to Mia. Mia, thank you so much. Everyone, let's give Mia a huge thank you. She took her time and it's an evening. Thank you, Mia. Thank you, everyone. All right, everyone, can we do that? We're gonna give Mia a huge thank you. Good, 1, 2, 3. Thank you, Mia.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. you so much, Mia. We got a lot of information out of it. Thank you for letting us know. And once again, the scholarship we ultimately chose was the. Do you mind just chat so that we know that that's the one you own?
With the paredes,
Look,
the
look, look.
walls.
Okay,
Also, I just put lines.
this is the air.
So that would separate the different
All
rooms.
right. Thank you, everyone.
Yes. Pretty much.
Let's see. All right, Mia, just type the scholarship in for me, okay? Good.
Yes.
All right, we're all set. Well, that was the baby's cameo. It's over, guys. Mia, thank you so much. Look, Mia, this is your future student. Are you going to give me a discount when you tutor my kids?
Yes.
You promise?
You get it for free.
Oh, yeah, right. 10 years you're going to be charged. I'm just letting you know, just remember to discount me because I can't. I don't think I can. afford- You're going places. I don't want to be stuck with that. I'm going to have some issues. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for listening. Mia, this was super informative. All right. Thanks everyone. Thank you guys. Bye. Bye everyone. Say bye. Say bye guys. Say bye Mia. Say bye Mia. Puju, 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 puju. Say bye Mia. She's having stage fright. Okay. Bye guys. Thank you.